So I am chuffed to pieces to invite Mr. Matt Black onto our stage today. We've had some amazing speakers recently, but when I met Matt at a Professional Speakers Association event back in tail end of last year, just sitting next to him, I felt like I'd known him forever. He was on the same page as us, a different experience from a different world. I cannot imagine what it must have been like growing up for him in the outback of Australia. And yet we had so much in common. So when he said that he was happy to come and talk to us, I was over the moon, absolutely thrilled. So I'm going to leave him now to share with you a little snippet of who he is, what he's passionate about, and hopefully something that we can take away and mull on. And we'll take into our breakout rooms as well. Over to you, Matt.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for using that picture. It's my favorite. I look far more beautiful than I am in real life. I'm going to share a presentation right now, if I can get it off the ground. There we go. And if you want to see me, obviously you can adjust your screens to do a side by side. Great. So I don't like talking a lot about myself, but I'm really happy to give you a little bit of context on kind of who I am and you know, because I think it's relevant. So over 35 years operating in the world business. That's been my kind of playground. More specifically, early stage companies. I find that they're exciting. They're on the bleeding edge of innovation, and they're dynamic and they're dangerous, and which is what I like. It took me about 15 years of making and losing, I'm afraid to say literally hundreds of millions of pounds to truly learn my first big life-defining lesson. And until that point, everything that I'd been doing had been kind of incremental, a little bit better, a little bit faster. But today, thanks to that kind of life lesson, instead of being incremental in the way I operate my life or work with others, I'm known pretty much internationally as a person that creates explosive growth. And instead of a little bit more and a little bit better, I'm known in my industry for transformation and innovative thinking. And I'm going to hopefully share a couple little tips today, maybe some new reframed thinking in a simple way that continues to fill my life, my personal life, with joy and passion, and provides me with all the time and money that I need to live well. But before I start this talk, you know, I need to know, are you guys really on for me to share this really top tip that I want to share today? If you want to drop it in the, who's interested in hearing this in the chat? Yeah, 100%. Okay, good. I want to know, make sure you're on board, because, you know, I want to let you know in advance that this is possibly nothing you haven't already seen or know before. It might be true for you, it might not be true for you, I don't know, but it's going to be true for most people. And yet, even though you might know some of this, it might be challenging to hear. So consider yourself warned. I don't go in for nice conversations. I go in for effective ones. And my intention today is that you take this on and make something really unexpected happen. So the talk is all about what's missing in life and work today and how to get it. So as Jill mentioned, you know, I come from the outback. That's my outback story. So to get the record straight, I didn't start with a fantastic sense of style or razor-sharp business acumen I have today. Quite the opposite. I was born in the very remote outback of Australia. My father built the first house in a town called Exmouth, which is 1,100 kilometers from the nearest city. I left home when I was 14. I failed almost every subject in school. And even today, there's in many ways, I feel uneducated and lacking in some of the basic grounding that most people take for granted. But one of the big things I had in my advantage is I knew exactly what I wanted. And later, I discovered exactly what I needed. So eventually I found what I think of as success in my life. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So what do you want? What do you want in life? So everybody has something they're after, their raison d'etre, their meaning of life. What are they chasing? What are you chasing? Just think for a second, what is it that you want out of life? Here's the biggest headlines that are polled out there: happiness, freedom, joy, balance, fulfillment, confidence. So it's taken me a whole lifetime to figure out what I want and the path to get there. So I don't expect any talk to really make that happen for you. Sorry, I must have automatic forwarding on. My apologies. But this is going to be the exercise in the breakout session today. So have a look at these words. These are the top 8. One of these might particularly resonate with you as something you're kind of interested in, something that you really think is really, it's going to really be something you want to have a breakthrough in. So just to clarify what these some of the meaning behind them, the number one thing that people look for in life is they're searching for happiness. So it's the most mentioned missing element. And it's hard to achieve, but it's even harder to maintain. Money is obviously often mentioned. I've worked with millionaires, and hell, I've made plenty of millionaires, and I've been a millionaire myself multiple times. And that roller coaster of life that is being an entrepreneur. And freedom could be defined as having freedom to find my true purpose, or being lit up on a day-to-day basis. Peace. I think we all long for peace. That peace from the chatter and pressure, responsibilities. We all live in pretty chaotic times. We might want to, carve out a little space for ourselves, to experience, peace as part of that. Joy, as distinct from happiness. It's a kind of special happiness that comes from within. It's not associated with an event or an external source of any kind. And it comes from deep contentment and harmony. That might be what you're looking for. Or balance. I really love the concept of balance. The first thing that springs to mind is work-life balance, but that might be different for you. I'm currently looking to balance my urban and nature balance, how much time I spend in different environments, as well as adjusting my day-to-day time spent, allowing more time for spiritual or contemplative time. Fulfillment could be something you're looking for, or confidence. The reality of it's a tough world out there, and there's many challenges that we're simply not prepared to face. We might even see or hear evidence around us saying we're not ready. But through challenge, there's countless ways that we can still remain true to ourselves and leverage our gifts and foster our self-esteem and passion for work and life. The biggest thing that stops us from attempting a challenge is the lack of confidence. So have a little think about one word that really, captures your imagination or captures your thoughts, and really try to hold that as we go through this next bit of content. So the important thing is you shouldn't think of these as end goals, but really states that we're in or not in. So we're working on or not working on. And it's not really an end or a beginning, but it's the kind of journey that we're on in life. So if you have this is a very healthy, according to a lot of psychologists, a really healthy, great way to think about this way we do it. So, but an important break in your thinking here is why? Why is it that you haven't already got this stuff? Why is it that you feel the gap? Why is it that you feel the gap between where we are and where you want to be? When literally thousands, tens of thousands, or maybe millions of books and coaches and videos and things tell us exactly what to do. We even have millions of role models. Why does the average person feel that gap? What is the gap between where they are and where they want to be? I'll tell you exactly what stops you and what that gap is. So I'm really glad we had that meditation, because it'll put you in a great state of mind for this. So stop whatever you're doing, whether you're taking notes or whatever it is you're doing at the moment, and just clear your mind and close your eyes if you feel if it's the thing for you to do, and stop and think. Or rather, stop thinking. Stop thinking. Don't think of anything. So that little voice that said, why are we doing this, or what's going on, or how do I stop thinking, or whatever it is, you can call it your thoughts, your mind. You can use those words interchangeably, but that inner voice is what whispering to you all the time. It's in your mind constantly. It is you. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it's encouraging, other times it's cruel and heartless. And this is a concept called the diabolical self. It can work for us, it can work against us. Think of it like, you've heard the expressions, the voice of reason or the voice of emotion, or more extreme versions might be an inner angel or an inner devil. So when you're confronted or challenged, there's, for whatever reason, that might be unique to you, like a fear or something, your inner voice chimes in as a defense mechanism. It's in charge of what's going on. Nobody likes to feel fear. Nobody likes to feel pain or confrontation. So this protects us and stops us from getting what we really want and what we choose to do. It's a defense mechanism, like, and we've all heard of fight or flight reaction. That's a physical version of this mental reaction that protects ourselves. It's programmed into us over our lives, and it's automatic, and it's almost inescapable. So when we choose something that might seem impossible, even if it fires us up and gets us excited, our inner voice might say, no, stop. Even though we know the impossible things happen all the time. Medical breakthroughs, athletic accomplishments, world records. You know, I'm sure we can come up with a million reasons why you and I don't achieve extraordinary things. But the difference between you and the people making the impossible possible is they choose to try, and they don't listen to that inner voice. There's a great American psychologist, Abraham Maslow, says that life is an ongoing process of choosing between safety out of fear or need of defense and risk for the sake of progress and growth. It's that inner voice that stops us. And getting progress is only available by taking that risk. Maslow goes on to say that when we choose risk, we choose growth and expansion every day. For me, when I choose that I know logically is the right path, I get challenged. I get a sense of imposter syndrome. I might get stressed. I might question my choices. And in the past, until I learned this simple trick, there was no way that I would overcome that. I would get challenged. I would give up. I would even self-sabotage. That inner voice got its way. I'm sure we might all have experienced this type of thing. So how do you choose progress? How do you trick yourself into growth? How do we get what we want and master a lifetime of layers of unconscious, automated self-preservation? For me, I think the greatest trick that I've learned is it needs a catalyst to get you started. So a catalyst, obviously, it's an agent that provokes and speeds change or action. And it can be anything. It can be a vision, it can be a person, it can be a goal, it can be a, inspiration. People use vision boards, people use a million different things. But I think the easiest and the most effective thing that I've seen so far is choosing something great. I'll give you a great example. So as it's slightly more commercial, I'm apologizing because I come from a commercial background. I had an idea for a. I went to International Women's Day. Let's start there. I went to International Women's Day because somebody challenged me and said, you're an older white man and you're sexist. I said, what? What are you talking about? I've never been sexist in my life. I wouldn't even know what that was. And I started to think, is there such a thing as, is unconscious bias seeping into what I do? Oh my God, it kills me. It's automatic. If anybody knows how to fix automatic forwarding, please help. I went onto this International Women's Day event, and all these women were complaining about men and complaining about sexism and complaining about gender gap and pay gaps and all these different things. And that was a great forum for them to vent and to find solutions and see what they could do. So anyway, so I was there in International Women's Day, and as an entrepreneur, what we look for is we look for problems. And on the day, there was a huge problem which stuck out. Many women were saying that today we have a lot of great people that are being able to share, you know, vision of the future and what's going on. But when they grew up, there was no role models. So I adopted this idea. I could do something to help the cause. I could get involved. I don't know how to speak on women's issues. I don't have the background for it, but this is something I can do. This is something that inspired me. It was something great. So what I chose to do is I started to put together a bunch of people who were really inspiring, women that I knew, and I asked them to ask women that they knew to say, well, if I was to create a system to be able to share great, inspiring women around the world, would you be involved? And they said, yes, this fixes a great big problem we've got. And I ended up putting together a television show, which was called the Women in Business Show. And we got 8 women, and they were on a panel, and they spoke freely on a free broadcast Facebook site. And they basically inspired, in the end of it, after 8 episodes, they'd inspired over 1 million women around the world to, you know, with great role models and great stories and authentic conversation on what women can do when they get together and they set their mind to do things, and a million other topics besides. And that was an amazing project that came together simply because I set myself a huge, gigantic, great goal. Something was really inspiring for me, but not just inspiring for me, but inspiring for others. It had others implicit into that. So apologies about the auto moving slides, but essentially it was this inner no that I mastered. I chose something great, and risk. I had to risk getting out there and being the only man in a room with 200 women, and being the only man, only, you know, privileged white male on a panel of completely diverse, incredible women. I had to risk my self-esteem, my identity, everything. I had to put everything out on the line to be able to say, I'm going to do this regardless of what happens. And in the end, it was an outstanding result. So that was one small example of what I did myself personally, as maybe an example for you to achieve what you want to do. So being able to accomplish anything in this space, to be able to break through and to be able to get what you want, it's about mastering in a conversation. It's about choosing something great, something outside of you, and that will naturally garner the collaboration and support and create the gravity that you need to get there. But you also need to risk something. As Maslow says, you need to risk something to be able to put yourself out there. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in this inner breakdown and you won't get advanced. So risk something for the chance of winning everything. So that's it. Ready for breakouts.